Yo, yo, yo. Hey, what's up? Kind of wanted to make a video. Hey, what's up? I wanted to make a video. I've been wanting to make a video for a while now, just to kind of show my artistic process. I've been wanting to make a video for a really long time now, showing my artistic process. I am a self-taught artist. I've been wanting to make a video for a long time now to kind of describing my artistic process. I've been wanting to make a video for a while now describing. Hey, I wanted to. I've been wanting to make a video. I've been wanting to make a video showing my artistic process. I'm a self-taught artist, and I just basically paint whatever I want, whatever inspires me. I have I have always wanted to be an artist, but I always felt that that path was one that I couldn't freely choose. I always felt like being an artist meant that it was always going to be a hobby. And for me, I've found over the years that it it isn't for me. For me, art, being able to express myself through art, is kind of my reason for one of my reasons for living. Art to me is medicine. Uh, it's definitely the thing that has kept me going through my the lowest periods of my life. So onto these tools. Let's see. I'm not really particular, I guess, about what I use, only because I feel like, and I've learned this through music production. It's like, you want to get, like that piece of gear that is gonna make you sound so good, and like once you get it, like that's when your music's gonna sound, start to be really good. Um, And so you get the gear, and then you find that, oh well, now I need this other thing. That's what's gonna make my music sound good. And so I've kind of taken that lesson from music production, and I've applied it to other areas of my life. And so, when it comes to what I use, as long as I have something to paint with, um, I'm good pretty much. Uh, like I said before, I'm pretty much self-taught. I've taken a couple of classes, I think two. I took a drawing class and I took a pastel class. And in those classes, I definitely learned, I took away some valuable lessons. Um, so, but I'll get into those later on. But yeah, basically, what I have now is calligraphy brush, some sheet music paper, composition paper that my best friend left behind, and I have some acrylic paints. Um, the Why I'm using this in currently is well, my best friend, he actually left a calligraphy brush behind, and I remember like thinking it was pretty cool, and I don't know, I just wanted to use it one day, just because it feels kind of badass. I'm not gonna lie. Um, when you know, make some strokes, you're like, ah, yes, I'm, you know, I'm elegant or whatever. Um, so I started to do a couple of kind of abstract works um, based on musicians. And that's kind of how it all started. Um, and so I used the sheet. I don't know. I used the sheet music that he left behind as the canvas, and I don't know. I just thought it was apt since I was doing something based on musicians. So what I do is I put on a track that I like, or an album really, and I'll paint whatever in inspiration, you know, whatever idea I'm inspired to paint. Um, so in this painting that you see, I am. There are a lot of influences that go into everything that I'm making. Currently, my journey to getting here to this particular painting all started with my renewed interest. I guess you could say all started from this book that I'm currently reading, which is called The Tales of Genji, and it's a beautiful book written by, I believe, a lady of the court back in ancient, or you know, I shouldn't say ancient, but it's a book written by a lady of the court back in the old days of Japan. I think the Heian period. And it's just a beautiful book. It's taking me a while to finish it. It's and the reason why is because every single sentence I feel like is a reference to something else. Usually it's a reference to a collection of, like, a compendium of poetry, which I believe is called the Kokinshu. I apologize for my pronunciation. And it was by reading this book that I discovered that a lot of the poetry that is being referenced is actually Chinese poetry. So that kind of surprised me. I wasn't expecting that. And so, you know, in doing a little bit of research, I uh, discovered that a lot of the poetry back then, Japanese poetry, and the poetry of the officials of the court, of the, you know, higher ranking people, was in Chinese. Even if they didn't necessarily speak Chinese, they wrote poetry in Chinese. And so I've kind of been researching more about Chinese history, and of course, calligraphy features prominently, and it's one of the things mentioned in the Tales of Genji. They pay particular attention to how a letter is composed, and you know, back then, paper wasn't something you could just go at the store and buy some paper. You know, it was a special thing to have a clean piece of paper to write on, and so special attention was paid to the characters of the strokes of your characters. You know, that would say a lot about you. And of course, that's just like one thing. Of course, then they go further and like, okay, well, how are you writing? Like, how is your poetry? Is your poetry up to par? Because then that would say even more about you. Um, and so I've kind of been in this world of ancient China, and it kind of just renewed my interest to kind of to start painting again with a calligraphy brush. Um, and you know, I haven't looked up any videos or anything like that necessarily. I've looked up footage of calligraphy masters, but I haven't taken any lessons on calligraphy itself. It's just me kind of just having fun making the strokes and kind of yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. I'm just having fun creating interesting strokes. I do like a lot of prints and paintings um, that I've seen at museums from ancient Japan and China, um, and I am influenced by those. So that's kind of like the exposure, the extent of the exposure that I've had to that. Um, so that brings me to the musician. So because I've been doing these, like this is basically a one in a series of paintings that I've made inspired by musicians, and so this one in particular is inspired by uh, Xiang Xiang Sihua, which she is a like legendary. I mean, that's my word, but legendary guzheng player, which is this stringed instrument that was used in ancient China, and I feel like everybody's heard it, but yeah, like it's incredibly beautiful, and I was actually able to find this artist because I think I had because again in the Tales of Genji they play they actually play the instrument there, but I believe it's referred to as a kin in the book, but uh, they also I think play the guzheng, and I've been watching a bunch of uh, period dramas lately, also inspired by the by reading the book. Um, so I think I researched like what are the best, like who are the best guzheng players in history, and that's something that I'll do from time to time. I like knowing like okay who's the best like piano player, violinist, and uh, or even more even instruments that aren't like part of the Western uh, I guess scope. Like I'll search like who's the best harmonium player, who's the best tabla player. Um, And yeah, I mean, you get, of course, incredible results. So I was able to find Xiang Sihua, and man, like, there's some really good footage on YouTube uh, where she's just really playing beautifully. And so I was able to find, I think on Spotify they only had one album, but I know that recently they've uploaded several others. But um, yeah, the music is just incredibly beautiful. So I've just kind of I hadn't painted in a while, and so reading this book, the Tales of Genji, and just immersing myself in Chinese culture and history, I just kind of felt this buildup of just creative energy, and so I finally uh, sat down and I'm like I'm gonna paint this, and I usually do I usually do these paintings in one sitting. Um, all the other musicians I've also done in one sitting. I don't know. I just kind of for me it becomes a sort of meditation. This particular painting took me about 5 hours, and I take a couple of breaks in between to stretch or get something to eat. But when I'm in it, I just kind of because of also um, I'm really into meditation, and I I know that many artists have referred to painting as a sort of meditation, so I started to view it that way myself. So when I'm painting, I'm just breathing, focusing on my breath, and of course, I'm focusing on what I'm doing, um, but I'm not necessarily lost in some sort of conceptual thing, And if anything, I actually told myself before I began painting this particular painting, I told myself not to just to have fun with it, like just appreciate the lines, the strokes that I'm making, the colors that I'm bringing, and just have fun. Um, that's another lesson that I really have learned just from making music and other artistic endeavors that I've undertaken, is that the more you try to like the more you try to force sort of a conceptual thing, idea, the more frustrated. I mean, I'm only speaking for myself. The more frustrated I tend to get. So for me, I think a big lesson is always for it always to be fun, and it is nevertheless challenging. It can things something can be fun and challenging, and it can be a bit of a puzzle sometimes, but ultimately when you're engaged with what you're doing and it's not like this stressful thing, and you're not constantly beating yourself up, um, go figure it. The final result comes out a lot better. Um, so anyway, so yeah, I've been listening to a lot of Gujang music, and so I put some on while I was painting this. It was a beautiful day. It was raining outside, so it was very peaceful. I had my tea, um, and I was just letting the brush kind of do its thing. And like whenever back in the past when I would hear artists like, oh yeah, I just let it do its thing, and it just kind of seems like sometimes people, I don't know, like they're like, oh, like, but how does that come out of you? Like, it's not even like a, I don't know. I really feel like everybody already has this ability to, everybody can make art. There isn't anyone that can't. Um, it's just a matter of, uh, I think it's appreciation, I think, and then research, which then informs your interests. And then if you put that together with just having fun and just like letting it flow, in the sense of like you're not like, oh well, I didn't do this right or I didn't do that, and you're just hampering yourself at each step. um you're gonna come up with something that you like, and ultimately that's kind of that not kind of that's what I've landed on for myself. I make art that makes me feel good. I wanted to bring something into this world that when I look at it, it makes me feel good. And um so when I started this, I was just kind of like, let me just make some strokes, and the image, it'll come out uh, as I'm working. And so, you know, once I kind of got one side in, I was like, oh, like this kind of looks like a mountainside, and that's another thing that um, I like organic forms. Um, so, as such, I like to paint uh, subjects that are found in nature, so landscapes and stuff like that. And of course, I'm heavily inspired by the Impressionists, and their brushstrokes and the way that they work is a lot less rigid, a lot more natural or organic, people say. Um, so that's kind of the mindset that I came into this with. So uh, once I kind of finished one side, I'm like, okay, this is kind of like a mountain. And then I was like, okay, like what can I do perspective wise? Like what angle am I, like where am I standing vis-a-vis the what I'm painting? And that's something that was reinforced in, again, that drawing class that I took. We worked a lot with perspective, and so and it was like I didn't come out of there drawing like a master by any means, but it did at least inform kind of the way that I approach things. So, uh, I like to find like an interesting angle, from which to view something. Um, And I think once you have all of that going together, like what you make comes out like very interesting. 'Cause it's very specific. These are all like these choices that you're making, but it's light because you're making them on the fly without too much pressure. So, once I made this kind of little mountainside thing, I was like, oh, like this, maybe there's like a river that runs through here. And then I was like, ah, yes, okay, so once I got this water, all right, I'll make another mountain on this side. So kind of like this valley or like two mountain sides and a river flowing through it, um, is what came out. Um, and so, in addition to the music and the cult, like I said, I've been immersing myself in Chinese culture. I've also been learning how to write Chinese characters, and they definitely writing the characters for me. It's really satisfying and actually it's relaxing. Um, I like once you get the stroke order, you just kind of like write out the same character over and over, and I just find a lot of enjoyment doing that. So um, definitely this time around with this painting, it certainly informed the way that I was laying down the strokes, like the horizontal, vertical ones. Um, so there's definitely some of that going into there. And yeah, uh, like I said, I really, I think I mentioned it. I like nature, and like is a, it's not really the word. I love nature, and so most of the things that I feel like I like to paint are nature related, and that has a lot to do also with not just myself, but I think it's further reinforced by the fact that I also love impressionism, and the impressionists, of course, were known for going out, and, painting in plein air, and all that. So that definitely is an influence here, uh, and like you seeing the stuff around you and gathering inspiration from whatever's around you. So in this painting, I had a mango, uh, just in the kitchen, and I've been eating a lot of mangoes this summer. I like reconnected horde with the mango. Like I'm telling you, mangoes are, I don't know. I mean, I can't say that I've had a lot of different kinds of fruits. I've had a lot. I mean, I've had a lot in the U.S., sure, but I know that there is a world out there of fruits that I haven't tasted yet. But the mango, and even within the mango, the mango kingdom itself, there are a variety of mangoes, and so that excites me. But anyways, these mangoes have been on sale this summer, and um, I don't know, I just like lost touch after I moved away from Florida. I hadn't really had a really good mango in a long time. Anyways, these were on sale, so I've been in paradise. Like this batch of red mangoes, I think they come from Mexico. They have been life giving. So anyway, I saw one, and I was like, wow, I really like this yellow, red, green vibe that's going on in this mango. So I placed it, as you see, on the table, and I used it as inspiration uh, for the painting. Just because when I see the mango, I just feel good. So I wanted, when I see this painting, I just want to feel good. So I used the yellows and the red for the sky, and then the green for the mountains. Um, a little bit about the way that I approach color. what I've been doing ever since I read, like I did a deep dive in the Impressionists, and um, I listened to quite a bit of Van Gogh's personal diary, letters that he would send to his brother Theo and stuff like that. And he really talked a lot about the vibration that the colors place, like when they're next to each other. So he seemed to have a lot of fun just kind of experimenting with like what happens when I put this color next to this color, or how do these colors pair well, you know? And of course, like people probably listening are like, yeah, that's called color theory, doy. But when I don't know, when I definitely learned uh color theory when I took the pastel class. I was kind of learning on my own too, and looking at the chart and whatever. Um, to get a basic understanding of complementary colors and all that stuff. But really, what stood out to me in the diary, in Van Gogh's diary, is this kind of like fun. Um, I don't know if the word is innocent, but it's kind of like bright-eyed approach to just like having fun with how the colors are dancing. And so whenever I think about colors, I think about them dancing and just mixing together, and just like that's really the fun of it, for me. But of course, because there's so many colors to choose from, you're just like, where the heck do I start, right? So okay, once I have my inspiration for whatever colors I want to use, in this case inspired by the mango, um, I generally, what I do is like I'll just take the colors, the whatever colors I want, and I'll have white and black. And this is a lesson that I learned from my pastel class that I took, which is never to use black. And of course, these rules are, do whatever you want. But basically, it's like just like mix to get your colors. Um, so I've applied that to everything that I've done. Sometimes I use black here and there, but generally I don't. And the only way that I use it is when I'm trying to mix it into another color to like make it more subdued. Really what I do is I have white, and then I make gray, because when I remember I was researching, I don't remember exactly where I got the information, but when I was researching, uh, I learned that if you add gray to a color, it makes it, and I forget the exact terminology. I don't know if I think it's a tint. And if you add white, it changes the hue. I could be wrong. Um, but basically, it keeps the same color, but it makes it like darker. And then if you add white, um, it brightens up the color or whatever. Or you can make you can make pink if you mix it with white and red and stuff like that. But anyways, I try to keep it simple. Like I just mess with the values of whatever colors that I'm having, and the colors that I tend to pick, like I said, are limited, and I know that they'll work. You know, um, but and sometimes you get some surprises here and there. Uh, like, oh, maybe these colors didn't work as well as I thought, but generally speaking, I try to stick to a very smaller palette. And again, this is informed by when I was making music. It's like when you limit yourself, it's actually a lot better, I think, for creativity, because when you have a lot of options, then you just get lost in the sauce, and then next thing you know, you're just frustrated. You don't know where to start or whatever. Um, so that's basically how I paint. I choose a palette, and then I just mess with the values of that whatever I chose. Another lesson that I learned from that class was never to stick to one area of a painting or a picture or whatever, and which can be hard to do sometimes, because you're just like, I'm super into this, what I'm doing this right now, but um, what I learned is, yeah, like just paint all over, little bits here, little bits there. And what I find time and time again is that, like, yeah, at the end of it all, it the final result is a lot more harmonious, a lot more cohesive when you do that. So that's kind of like what I do. And as you'll see, like I'll add this color here and this color over there. Um, and I'll just mix on the fly, like I don't try to think about it too much. It's like, oh, like I have this green on my brush. Like, oh, I know that I've used yellow, so let's just add some yellow to this green, see what happens. Oh, okay, I got this new green. All right, cool. I'm gonna add this new green over here, over here, over here. Um, and I just basically, that's what I do. And I just go in and I fill in, uh, like just the different areas that I've using the strokes as kind of like the boundaries. Um, some of the characteristics of the strokes do get lost, just because I'm using this. It's a small brush, but I'm definitely uh, I could be a lot more steady. Um, but yeah, it's a little bit difficult when you're getting to these finer points of the brush strokes. But the end result I am still happy with. But yeah, sometimes there's a certain characteristic of the stroke that I'm sad to see it go. But at the end of the day, I still feel good with what the final result. And I kind of view it as I don't know, maybe just to make myself feel better, but I kind of view it as kind of like this impermanent thing, like it's just temporary. I enjoyed it in the moment, and now like it's become something new. Um, so yeah, I this painting took me about 5 hours to do. Um, when I get in the zone, I just, like I said, it's a meditation for me. Um, and yeah, like as I saw it unfold, uh, I was just getting more and more excited. I mean, when I saw uh, the gradient of the sky itself, that alone, I was like, ah, man, I'm really gonna enjoy looking at this. And sure enough, whenever I look at it now, I am just filled with just like a sense of joy. Like I almost wish, or I feel like I'm there, in that imagined landscape. I really love sunrises and I love sunsets and I love the water. So to have all of those elements together, it just brings me uh, just a sense of joy. Um, and when I look at it, of course, I think of mangoes. um, Another thing when I was looking at it that it kind of uh, reminded me of is, and this is kind of like what certain tracks of Xiang Sihua kind of reminded. Some of the tracks feel very like there's a vast loneliness, or like a emptiness. I don't know. Like there's like sometimes these pauses in between the notes, and within that there is kind of like a just like a silence or an emptiness. Um, and I don't remember exactly the details, but I know that in my studies of Chinese culture and history and philosophy, like they talk a lot, I think, about uh, just kind of empty space, and I believe that the Japanese do as well. Just this idea of nothingness, or just, yeah, like empty. And so when I was looking at this kind of view between these two mountains, it reminds me of kind of like this. neutral emptiness. And I've been writing, in addition to painting, I've also been writing poetry for a little book that I'm going to release based on spring, and I'm calling it Short Spring because this year I went to visit family down in Florida, and I really didn't get to see all of spring. So it was a short spring. Um, so I wrote a poem the other night, actually, the night before, I believe I painted this, and I feel like it is pretty apt, or I don't know, it goes together well uh, with this painting. Let me see if I can find it here. All right. Here is one, and this is one of 20 poems that I'm working on. They're just short little snippets that I'm going to include in my book, uh, and each one of them has to do with nature and uh, nature, but to talk, nature's the medium, but to talk about other deeper human emotions, and that's something inspired by reading the Tales of Genji, again, immersing myself in Chinese culture and poetry. Um, so here is the poem that goes with this painting. Here comes the aimless river, running, crashing, thundering through, like always, without a purpose. So yeah, a little some, a little some. Um, I was just thinking when I wrote that, and kind of like when I look at this painting, uh, yeah, like things in nature, they don't, at least as far as I know, right? They don't wake up and wonder like what their purpose is, or are crushed by like the existential dread that humans face. When a flower grows, it just grows and it just does its thing. Like that is what I do. Like it doesn't care if you think it's ugly or beautiful or anything. And so I was thinking about uh, the river, like a river, and it's the same. Like it's just flowing, and it rivers have been like the center of like civilizations. Like for example, again, like I said, in Chinese history, reading about the Yellow River and how it's a super prominent and important symbol in Chinese culture. Um, because of how important rivers are to trade, and water is to your crops and all that and everything. Water is life. We have the Nile is another example. You have the Amazon River, the Mississippi. um, so rivers are just like very, very powerful elements that represent life. And I was just thinking how like this very powerful symbol, really the power is bestowed by us, um, but it itself doesn't reflect on its purpose, or on its power. It just is. And that's just kind of a reminder to me to move forward with life, move forward in life with kind of this idea that you don't, like, yes, I do have a purpose that I choose for myself, but at the end of it all, like, I'm also just an organism floating on a rock in space. And ultimately, purpose is just something that is created, or I mean, it is created, and it's either you choose it, or it's forced on you, or whatever, or like you're highly influenced to choose a certain path, um, based on societal standards or pressure or whatever. Um, but nature always just reminds me that it's all just made up, and I find comfort in that. So yeah, I that's what I think about when I look at this painting. I think about, and it provides me with a moment of not only neutrality, but there's a certain stillness when I look at it. Like there's this vast sky, um, but then of course there's movement and flow, which is represented by the water. And like I wasn't necessarily thinking all these things while I was doing it. Like afterwards, I thought about, oh yeah, like I made all these connections because of I've been thinking about these things. It didn't just come out of nowhere. So yeah, I mean that's kind of basically how I work. I feel like really what I do is I just research and I just get super. I feel like I get obsessed, with a certain subject, and I'll just like research the heck out of it, and so then it's just like all of these ideas rolling around in my mind, and then I do something, and then of course like the influences show, um, and it's something that is unique to myself. I'm not necessarily trying to replicate anything. I'm just kind of choosing elements that I like based on my influences and inspiration, and yeah, just trying to have fun, really having fun. I mean, I really had fun with this one. Um, it was just like really, really peaceful time. But then I have other days. Uh, Not too often, but sometimes I will have like where I just absolutely like I started off liking something and then I absolutely hate it, but I keep working through, and sometimes I it results in something good and I'm like, I'm glad I kept going. And other times it's just like, nah, like it didn't work. But the thing I think in both scenarios is just being able to push through the discomfort and sit, not just pushing through like you're ignoring the discomfort. No, you're sitting with it, like you're face to face with it, and you're choosing to to continue, and it's okay to take a step back and come back to something. But I really, really, I've seen this advice time and time again, but like I really truly have internalized, the lesson, the advice, which is to just, it's way better in the long run for you to follow through with whatever you're doing than it is to get it like, oh, like perfect, because A, you're not perfect and you never will be, and no one will ever be. Um, and B, when it comes to art, it really is about the process. It's about doing things over and over and over and experimenting and discovering and honing. And the more you do that, the closer you get. You start to build up a set of skills that will allow you to more accurately express the feeling or the idea or whatever it is, your inner world. That's how I see it. Um, and that's what the importance of learning and researching is. And when they say like learn the rules so you can break them and all that, um, it's just so you can have a foundation. Um, but yeah, most importantly is that I have found is just to follow through and to limit your tools initially or whenever, because once you do that, I mean, later on, you start to, I think you have a deeper appreciation for like whatever tools you use. And I found that to be the case, like with music, like, do you need the most expensive gear? Is that what's going to make you more creative? Or, can you use whatever to make something that you like? And then later on, when you do upgrade, you already have that base of creating things. And then, yeah, it's gonna sound badass, or like, well, oh yeah, if you use a better brush or better quality paint or whatever, yeah, like it's gonna look cooler, perhaps. But the thing that's important here is that you're exercising that creative muscle. But anyway, that's it. Enough of that. um, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little video. Um, I never really get to talk about my artistic process, and recently I've been accepting that I am an artist. Like, I've made that choice. Like, that is who I am. Um, that's why I want to be here and continue. I want to create all kinds of works and continue to just explore and to learn. There's so much in life. I feel like that's one of my already regrets, is that I won't be able to learn everything. There just simply is not enough time. Um, but yeah, like, it took me a while to get to this point. And when people would say, "Oh, are you an artist?" I'd be like, well, I dabble. Well, and it's just kind of like, in my mind, I realized just in my mind, I just had this idea of like, well, if you're an artist, then you have formal training, and so you went to school for it, or you're like really like good, and of course, everybody knows art is subjective or whatever, but like, you know, uh, people, I don't know, you just get this idea in your mind of like, well, if it isn't museum quality, then, or whatever, even to be in a gallery or anything like that, you're like, yeah, I'm not an artist. um but that's just a bunch of crap. And plus, if you look and you read, in history, there are countless examples, Van Gogh included, of artists that weren't even renowned in their time and actually were ridiculed, so they had to put up with people being like, your stuff ain't shit. And they were like, these are people that are like super famous now, of course. Um, so when it comes to fame and art, like that is just a fickle world. Um, so I just let that go, and I'm like, listen, I'm just doing this for my health. Like, it makes me feel good. As long as I stay true to what I want to present, and in that way remain authentic, and put in the work because I want to, because it's fun, then, yeah, I'm an artist. I create art with intention. I'm an artist. There are many different kinds of artists, and I am among that crowd. So, yeah, um, all of that has come up to the surface as I've been doing a lot of inner work. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of like why I made this video, just to give a little, just to show like what I do, how I do. Um, but anyway, I think I'll make another one soon. Uh, Maybe I'll be doing something else, or maybe I'll do another painting and describe my influences again. I don't know. I just feel like whenever I read, about artists, I'm always super curious to know why they were inspired, but like the nitty gritty, like little details of how, like why they might have done one thing or this other thing or whatever. Um, Not just necessarily like, oh yes, he was inspired by the movement of the Impressionists or the Cubism or whatever the heck. Like I want to know, like, you know, such and such, so and so was at a restaurant and the coffee spilled on somebody and they were so angry that when they saw that person and how red they were, they just went back home and painted something in like the most beautiful red. Just an example of I like stuff like that. So I'll be sharing more and more details in the videos to come. So anyway, that's just a little slice of life. I will see you again next time. Bye.